Hello and welcome back to the Food Freedom with Becca and Abbie podcast. I am Becca.
And I am Abbie.
Hi, Abbie.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How has your week been?
Busy, very, very busy. I am very glad it is the weekend now. But yes, how has yours been?
All right. Why has yours been so busy? You can't just say busy and not explain.
So I have started a new job and I've had 2 weeks of like back-to-back training on top of my other job and uni stuff. I think I worked out that I've been working like a minimum of like 50 hours a week,
That's
which
mental.
is not including like essays and stuff that I've had to do for uni. So
Oof,
that's been fun.
that's a
But
busy
yeah,
week.
that's a busy week.
Mine's not been as busy as yours. I don't even know what I've done this. What have I done this week? Still looking after puppy. So I got puppy. I don't think
Yeah,
we've
I
discussed
see.
that since the last podcast. So I have little baby Nutella and she's very
She's so
cute.
cute. She's
And I
adorable.
have spammed the internet with her, I know. But she's great. She is affecting my sleep a little bit.
Mm,
But on the whole, it's nice having a dog in the house. And she's very
yeah,
smart. She can do sit already, and she's like 9 weeks old.
that's crazy. She is so
Um,
adorable though.
yes, I've had that. And I celebrated my nephew's birthday yesterday, which was nice. But yeah, just a standard week, I think, really.
Perfect. So, what are your three positives from this week then?
I'm glad you asked. So my three positives are one, I got a puppy,
Mm-hmm.
obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, two would be so I've changed my training style a little bit around, and basically someone at work wanted to start the gym and he's never been before, so he started coming with me at lunchtimes, which has been like I've actually really enjoyed it because I can show him stuff, but it also takes the pressure off of my training sessions because
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just training with him and it's something different.
That's
So that would be my second one. And my third one would be that I had family day yesterday with like my brother and my mum and dad and nan and granddad, and got to do all of that stuff and had some yummy. My mum makes the best Oreo cheesecake, and she brought it yesterday, and it was so good, like so good.
I love
It's,
that when like one of your family members makes like a comfort food that you're just like, it's just the best.
the problem is my mum makes so many good desserts that like every time there's a thing, there's always something, and I'm just like, oh. And sometimes she brings two, and then I'm like, what do I do? How do I
You're
pick?
like,
Exactly, it's really hard.
yeah, I know. Just have a
What
little
have
bit of
your
both.
positives been this week?
Oh my days. I don't know if I have the brain capacity to even think of three.
I'm sure
Um,
there's been three.
I'm sure there has. My first one would be that today I've had a very nice rest day.
Good.
And I went out with my boyfriend, which was really nice. My second would be that I went to the gym.
Very good.
Yes. Even with my dodgy knee, because I've got a dodgy knee at the moment. So yeah, that was good because it kind of mentally helped me. And then my third one, what would be my third positive from this week?
Would it be going
Oh,
out with
I
your
started
sister?
reading.
Oh,
Pardon?
going out with your sister?
Oh yeah, I did. I forgot about that. Yes, I did. I went out with my sister as well, which is really nice because I haven't really seen her much. The
You can
past
have
two
four
weeks.
because it sounds like you've got another one.
Yeah. And my fourth one would be that I started reading again, which is nice because it really helps me mentally, and it's something that I really like to do, but
Don't
sometimes
make
it
time
takes,
for.
yeah.
Have you got a
Um,
recommendation for a book? Is it good enough to recommend? Or are you
oh
not
my
there
days.
yet?
No, I'm not there yet. I've only read
Okay.
like 20 or so pages, so I'll
Okay, it's
maybe
not
mention it
hooked
in a
you
later.
yet.
I'll mention it in a later one and
All right.
see. But yeah.
Great. So in this episode, we're going to basically discuss your journey, and if it leads into it, maybe my journey, but we're just going to see how things go. So obviously in the last episode, if you didn't listen to it, which you should have because, it was great, we discussed how we touched on a bit about how you used to do rowing as a child, and that it led to your fitness journey and
Yes.
pressures around food and different things.
Yes.
So I thought we could start with that. Like, if you want to discuss a bit about what rowing was like and
Brief
what it
overview.
entailed.
Yeah. So wait, so do you want like my story of how I got into it, or
Yeah.
just okay, cool. So I think I was about 15 at the
Mhm.
time, and it was actually my sister went to one of these like recruitment things where you got to try out loads of different sports, and then like the people like clubs would like pick people out and be, oh, we think you are well suited to this,
Mhm.
come along and give it a try. And yeah, so she did that and basically got scouted, I guess you could say, for it. And I think she did like one session or something, and I went to see it. And I've always had like a very active childhood. Like I've always done swimming, or I did gymnastics when I was younger as well.
Didn't know you did gymnastics.
Yeah, I did gymnastics when I was really young. I stopped when I was like 7 though, because I broke my leg, and I was just like it took too long to like rehab and all that. So I
Can you
stopped.
do
Plus I was
tricks?
not very good at it. Pardon?
Can you do any tricks?
No,
No.
not that I remember anyway. I was not good. I was not good at it.
I went, but I wasn't a gymnast.
I was not a gymnast. Yeah, but I'd always done like swimming and stuff as well. I did ballet when I was younger as well, for like a term.
I did
I
ballet for a term when I was a kid because my mum
yeah.
wanted me to do the girliest thing because she'd waited for a girl and then realised very quickly that I was more of a tomboy than a ballet girl.
I think my mum only did it so then she could have like me a picture of me in like
In the tutu.
yeah, in the tutu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um but yeah, so I've always had like a very active childhood, and yeah, my sister had signed up to it, and I kind of just saw it, and it was really like interesting. Like I don't think many people, I don't know, I guess it's rowing's not really like a mainstream sport that you'd immediately go, oh yeah, you know. And I think a lot of people watch like the Oxford and Cambridge boat races as well, and think, oh, that looks really like prestigious and stuff like that. Let me tell you, it is not at all. But yeah, so I started that when I was like 15, I think.
So you didn't
And
get into it because you wanted to lose weight. You got into it because
no,
it was
yeah, I went into it more because like, yeah, and say I'd always done sport and I always loved sport. It was never like that I didn't like sport growing up or anything like that. I've always had it in my life. Yeah, so I don't think I really went into it for that, but I think previously to that, I had still like done diets, if you will.
okay.
So I guess my disordered eating habits or wanting to lose weight was before that anyway, but I started it. And yeah, to begin with, it wasn't necessary to lose weight or anything like that. It was just to kind of do it and be active and, you know, meet some friends and stuff. But I think in that, everyone there was very slim and all this stuff. And it was very much so in rowing, you kind of, you do, well, I did anyway. You tend to do regattas over like the summer. So it's always like you train during the winter and then you compete during the summer. So they're always like, you know, training you up for that. And so I always remember we used to run as a warm-up when I was 15, we'd used to run a mile around a green, which now I can't, I can, even when I was like training for a half marathon, I could run a half marathon. I could not run a mile around that green because psychologically it scarred me.
Right, okay.
Which is insane. But yeah, so it kind of started like that. I was exercising a lot because I was training like 3-4 times a week, and like it was intense. Like it's not, you know,
it's not easy rowing. It uses
it's
like
not,
every
no,
muscle in the body.
it's so much more complicated. Yeah, and it was a mixture of like land training and actually on the water. So yeah, like intense training 3-4 times a week, and then at the same time I realized that if I stopped eating I would lose the weight quicker as well. So I can remember I would not eat breakfast in the mornings at school. I would not eat lunch. Like my dad would make lunch and I'd throw it away. I can remember every day chucking it in the bin at school. And obviously because I was training so much and like I didn't train that much previously, I lost so much weight so quickly.
You did.
Ridiculously. I think I went from like a size 16 to a size 12 in like 2 months, maybe
That's
less.
crazy.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But no one really picked up on it because they were like, oh, you know, you're
She's
just
training. She's gonna lose weight.
Yeah. So yeah, but then also that came with that was the fact that because I wasn't eating during the school day, I'd get home and I'd be absolutely ravenous, and I would eat anything and everything that there was there, which was not healthy. But yeah, but at the time I don't know, I didn't really think it was necessarily anything wrong with it. it
Yeah,
didn't
but it's
trigger in
not
my head.
surprising that you get to the end of the day, you've burnt X amount of calories
Mm,
rowing, your body's burnt however many calories just living. You're
yeah,
gonna, your body's going to be going, give me food, I'm so hungry, I don't
yeah,
care what you eat.
yeah. But yeah, at the time, like I still didn't even really realize that
Mhm.
it was wrong anyway. And to be honest, like I've now is completely different, but back then, like I never really went like headed with it. Like I could easily train and not eat.
Mm.
Like, yeah, it was insane. But yeah, so that's how it kind of started, I guess. Um,
But then you said you dieted before you started this stuff.
yeah. So I'd
That's
always
what that
die.
meant.
Yeah, I'd always done like diets before. Like when I was young, like really, really young, I was always like, the chubby kid, the
Mhm.
big boned kid. I can remember going to a party when I was like 5 and like I don't know, it wasn't that long ago, like a few years ago, maybe like we saw the parents of whose child's party I went to, and the one thing they said to my parents was, "Oh, your child was the child that really liked her food."
See, that's scarring as a
Like
kid, isn't
I
it?
was 5 years old. That's insane to tell,
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so I don't know where I was now. Yeah, I'd always dieted when I was younger and
But I
stuff like
think,
that.
sorry, just going back to that comment, like as parents, I think you say stuff so easily to kids because you don't think that they're going to take
Mm,
it to heart. Like when I was a kid, I went to see my great grandma, and it was like when I was 11 or something. So I was going through like teenage stuff. Walked in and she went, "Oh, you're going through your puppy fat phase, aren't you?" And like, I know old people can't help it. They just say what's on their
mm,
mind. But that scarred me for ages because I thought, oh
yeah,
my God, like I've got fat.
yeah,
But to her, it was nothing. It was just
mm,
her making a comment, but it affects people.
yeah, yeah. It was insane. And like also I didn't hear it when I was younger, but I was always aware that
Mm.
I was always, the child that was a bit bigger than everyone else. Um, but yeah, so I guess that's kind of how it started, but I didn't recognize it as being anything out of the ordinary, I guess, because I think back then, like, although social media was kind of taking a bit more of a rise, it still wasn't that mainstream. And so, there just was not a lot of information out there. But I
At
think
least, okay.
no, I was just going to say, I think the school that I went to as well, they were always very much like, our students never have any issues. If someone raised it up, they'd be like, no, our students don't do that. So I think that also didn't help because there was not a lot of support in like any mental health disorders or
No.
anything like that.
But I think as well, like the information that was out there at the time, like was it Slimming World you did or Weight Watchers?
So I did Slimming World when I was about 17.
Oh, I thought that was before.
No.
Okay. But yeah, like even so, like your mum was doing Slimming World, wasn't she, when you were younger?
Oh yeah, my mum's always struggled with her weight too, and like growing up I can remember her doing Light of Life, like loads of stuff, and I think for her it was a thing of misinformation as well. She didn't, she'd always struggled with it.
But that's
And I
what
think
everyone was fed with. Like my
yeah,
mum was always on Weight Watchers or those things because that was the only information out at the time on how to lose weight. And it worked because
yeah,
like people did lose weight. Obviously, it's
yeah,
not sustainable and I don't agree with it. But when you grow up and you see like your parents constantly dieting and being like, oh, I can't have that, I'm being good, and I can't have this, I
mm.
think that may have normalized like when you were rowing, when you weren't eating things, you probably
Oh
think, oh,
yeah,
my mum
definitely.
doesn't have stuff, so it doesn't matter if I don't. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's any parent's
No,
fault,
no, no.
but it's just a culture, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
if that's how everyone is, then you're never going to think, well, this is weird that I'm doing this and I shouldn't do this.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think it was also that thing of I hid it so well.
Yeah.
I think that was also a thing, like no one ever really picked up on it
But I
at
think that's the
all.
thing with eating disorders. Like it's so easy
Yeah.
to hide them because you yourself don't know you're going through it.
No, exactly. And I think especially when I was in that situation, people did just put it down to, oh, she's training a lot. But also I think when you are losing weight, like I think it's such a huge thing that is through social media and just, what's the word? Oh my days, can't think of the word. Anyway, like it's such a thing that when you lose weight, it's celebrated.
It's glorified, isn't
It's
it? Like,
glorified, yeah.
yeah,
So
it
like
is the
no one
thing.
really stops to think, wait a minute, how is she doing that? Is it, sustainable or, it was just a, oh, you look really well. you look really
That's the
good.
thing though, as soon as you've lost weight and then you see someone you haven't seen for a while, they comment, they say, oh, you've
Yeah,
lost a lot of weight, which
yeah,
yes is nice to feel, but then you're praising weight loss, which
yeah,
isn't like, it's not necessarily the weight loss. Maybe it's the fact you feel more confident in your body
yeah,
because you've lost weight, but everyone focuses on the side of weight loss.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, and then it just kept going on, and yeah, it was a whole cycle. But yeah, that's definitely how it started. But I think when I realized I had more of like an issue, I guess, was more when I was like 17, I think, because it was when I'd first learnt to drive. And I can remember before rowing, going to Mackey's on the way because I was starving from not really eating much.
Yeah.
Would go to Mackey's, have like 20 chicken nuggets, a burger, and all this before rowing, and saying to myself, it's fine because you're about to burn it off. I'm
Did it
fueling
not
my
make you
health.
feel sicky and all that before rowing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like it
I know
was,
you don't have like a logical brain when you're going through
yeah,
that, but
yeah, no, I did at part of it, I did feel sick, but it was just, I don't know. But I think at the same time as well, like I'd started A levels, and
Mhm.
I would probably say I went into a very depressive state
Yeah.
during that time. And so I think it was also a coping mechanism for that,
Mhm.
that I was not happy. Um, but yeah,
A
and
lot
then
of
like,
stress.
yeah, a lot of stress. And then I think that's also because I was binge eating and actually putting the weight back on again.
Mhm.
I then decided, do not do this. Please do not do this, what I'm about to say. I decided that I would enter myself into a half marathon
To help you lose weight.
to help me lose weight. Because I was like, if I set myself this and I've got to do it by this time, the training and stuff, running, cardio will help me lose weight,
Mhm.
which it did not.
And
And
I
do
think
not do
that's
it.
an important thing to say. Like, so many people sign up to things for the wrong reason. Yes,
Yeah.
it's good to have a goal that you're aiming for. And yes, knowing you're training for something might help you to be more dedicated. But doing it just because it's going to make you lose weight
Yeah.
is not a reason to do
It does
something.
not. And it was one of those things as well that I didn't train properly for it because I wasn't motivated to do it for the right reasons. I was still eating shitly, and because, sorry, I didn't mean to swear on.
It's okay.
Um
We put a disclaimer on anyway to say we said, so it's fine.
um yeah, because I was doing that, I kept eating and I was almost so sad because I felt like I was forcing myself to do this. I can remember every training run I did, I would cry at the end. I'd be in
Mhm.
absolute tears at the end because like I don't know if it was just like an emotional release, but also I think because I knew that I was doing this to my body and putting myself through the pain because I was more, I don't know, I guess annoyed at myself. And
And
it's
because
the
you
guilt
didn't
of it.
actually want to run, you were just
No, I
running
didn't.
for
And
that.
yeah, I can remember every single time at the end of every training run, I would cry my eyes out. And my dad, luckily enough, like trained with me for it because he's a
Mm.
runner as well. And he'd always be like, "Why are you crying? Why do you always cry at the end of a thing?" And I'd be like, "I don't know." And like now I know, obviously. But yeah, it was tough.
Oh, bless
But
you.
yeah. So please do not do that. If you want to run a half marathon, do it for the right reasons. And I have done one since for the right reasons. And it is very fun to do, but do not do it for weight loss because
No,
it's not worth it. There's
no.
easier ways.
So obviously we've just talked about the fact that you've had issues with an eating disorder, but
Mm,
we've not said what that eating disorder is. So
yeah.
you want to talk a bit about what
So
it is?
I've never been formally diagnosed, but I would definitely class myself as having binge eating or had, I guess, binge
Mhm.
eating disorder. Which definitely, yeah, started when I was about 17. I would say for sure that I recognized it. I think, yeah, when I was 15 it started, but I didn't necessarily know. And then I think I almost got myself out of it
Mhm.
for a little bit. And then when I started, yeah, A levels and stuff, um, I think it was more emotionally dependent. And I've kind of bounced back and forth with that for, I mean, I'm 22 now. Um, and I kind of came to at the start of this year. So I was 21 at the time, and I was still in
Struggling.
that phase of consuming ridiculous amounts of calories in one go. Yeah, for anyone that doesn't know as well, do you want to just explain what it is? Because you'll probably know it better than I will.
So binge eating disorder is when, so a lot of people confuse it with just overeating, and
Mm,
it's not. So binge eating disorder is you physically restrict yourself eating food for a while, for however long period of time, So say Monday to Friday, you live off of salads because you're trying to be good, you're trying to lose weight. And because you've restricted your body so much, you get to a point where you binge on food. Now, this isn't overeating. This isn't just, oh crap, I've eaten too many biscuits. Like, I feel really guilty for it. It's physically not having control of your body. Like, you're sat there eating biscuits, and in your head, you're not in control of your body. Like, you're doing it and you don't know you're doing it, or you go to the kitchen and you eat stuff and then you hide the wrappers because you don't want people to see what you've just done. Or like, there's so many different forms and there's so many different causes. So like you said, some of your binge eating is an emotional thing. Like, there's so many different causes for it. There's stress related, emotion, like, and it's something that has only really become publicly known about for the last couple of years. Like, before, I'd never heard of it. And again, like, this is where social media can be quite difficult. So I followed someone on social media that was going through it and was watching her, and I was thinking, oh my God, like, I don't eat a lot in the week, and then like at the weekends I suddenly eat a lot, or I feel guilty for the foods I'm eating and it will make me uncomfortable. And I struggled a lot mentally, knowing whether I had binge eating disorder or whether I was on the borderline, or whether I was just overeating and not controlling myself properly. And you tell yourself that you're this person, that you're okay and you're not struggling with it. But in reality, a lot of people have crossed that boundary before, like, and there are different levels of it and things, but yeah, I've lost my train of thought.
No, you're good. I think it's also important to note that binge eating isn't just like sweets, chocolate, junk food. You can binge on anything. It is just consuming more food, I guess, not necessarily calories. It usually is associated with higher calorie things, but just a ridiculous amount of volume of food in
And
such
like
a short...
weird mixes of things, like
I would
combinations.
I would eat some really weird things, weird combinations, because it would just be, I just want the food. I just want to... You don't have control over it. It's like a compulsion. Compulsion is the right word, isn't it?
And it's not just like treat foods or whatever either. Like, I know a lot of women that have binged on vegetables because you think vegetables are good for you, so you sit and you eat like a whole thing of broccoli because that's what's there. But that doesn't make it not binge eating just because you're eating vegetables.
Like, I can remember a few years back, because I think I was aware of it, like I said, at a certain point, and I can remember feeling it and just being like, I just need to eat a load of food. Like, and I knew at that time that like stir fry mixes like of vegetables is like low cal, because I was trying to lose weight at the same time. And I would literally, I think I had like 2 or 3 of the big bags of just the vegetables, cooked it and was just eating it, and it was such a big amount. But because all I wanted was to just consume so much food, it's really bizarre. It's a weird thing to experience, I guess. It's not nice either. It's really not nice, and it does make you feel really uncomfortable afterwards, because you're sat there and you're like, what on earth have I done? It's like you almost blank out of it. You don't realize how much you've eaten until then you're literally like, oh my God, I feel physically sick.
And then it starts the cycle again, because you feel guilty for what you've just done, so you then restrict the next day because you think, oh my God. And that's like, for anyone that's suffering with it, like, I'm not going to go into detail on this episode on how to get over it because there's a lot we can talk about. But the worst thing you can do is start restricting again the next day. Like, if it happens, just accept that it happens. As hard as it is, it's a new day, and your body will always deserve food regardless of what you've had the day before. Like, I saw a really good analogy on Instagram that it's like brushing your teeth. If you brush your teeth 10 times on a Monday, that doesn't mean you don't have to brush your teeth for the rest of the week. You still need to keep brushing your teeth.
No, definitely. And I would say, if you do think that you are suffering with it, please reach out to anyone, because you do feel so alone in it, and you are definitely not. So whether that is family, friends, our DMs are always open. Please just reach out to someone, because it will help you so much. And do not be afraid to reach out, because it is awful to go through.
And we also, just as a side note, as a company, we donate 10% of our profits to Seed, which is an online charity for binge eating disorder. So if you do struggle, then look up Seed online. It's SEED, and reach out to them. It's a free service. It's a charity.
Yeah.
But something I wanted to touch on is, like, with eating disorders, people expect you to get over them very quickly. But like, when it comes to addiction, and it is a bit of an addiction, like,
Oh, definitely.
if someone has alcohol addiction, you can avoid the pub, you can not get beers in your house, you can avoid those things. But with like binge eating disorder, you have to eat. Like, your body physically needs food, which means that you are surrounded by the thing that is tormenting your brain every single day.
Yeah.
And that's why it takes so long to get over it. Like, you are going to trip up. You're never going to heal yourself like that. Like you said, like, you've suffered with it for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's only this year that you've really started to get more of a grips on it.
Yeah, definitely. And then say what we in November, so it's the 11th month. And say, yeah, so I started recovery with Becca in January because I had a really messy Christmas. Yeah. Yeah, and I started in January, and like we've worked together for 11 months, and like I'm so much better than I used to be, but I would not say I'm fully recovered at all. And that is, 11th month in. And I think it depends who you talk to. But for me personally, and this may be the wrong thing to say, but for me personally, I don't think I will ever fully recover from it. I think those tendencies will always be with me. But
I was going to say the exact same thing. Like, as horrible as it sounds, it is always going to be with you, but it's something that you should own, and that you should, like, yes, you've been through it, but think how much you've learned about yourself going through it. And especially for you, like, I know this year we've worked a lot more on like your body confidence and focusing on things other than the scale and that side of things, to try to realize how great you are. Like, honestly.
To be fair, it's a good point to make, because I think when you are stuck in that cycle of any eating disorder or disordered eating, doesn't have to be, clinically classified, I think it's really hard to not then view yourself as that person that like it kind of defines you. And I think it's actually stepping away from that and realizing that you are not just that. And it like you said, I think the analogy that I've had before is like, and to be fair, I think it's used with anything like grief and all that stuff as well, is that in the beginning it's like this massive box that is in the corner of your mind, and you're so aware of it, and every day it kind of gets a little bit smaller. Sometimes it might open back up, but eventually it will just be like a tiny little tiny one that's in your brain. So it will always be there with you, but it's just it doesn't pop out to see you every hour of every day.
Just accept it and move on. It's hard.
It is tricky, but you can do it. There is proof. Yes. It's not the ender if you do have it. That's what we're trying to say. It may be a bit somber, but definitely you can overcome it. And like I said, even if you've suffered with it for so many years, like, you can turn it around. You will not always be stuck with that. And I think that is really important to note as well, because you can feel so like, I'm never going to be able to get out of this cycle, but you can.
And I think, like, maybe we should talk a bit about this year with you, because obviously, like you said, Christmas last year was hard for you and you ended up in quite a low point. And as your friend and your coach, like, I've seen you go through an emotional roller coaster of the year. Like, your poor little stress levels have been off the charts some months, and it's like we said, it doesn't go away. And sometimes when life gets really, really difficult, it comes back, because life is hard, man. Like, regardless of whether you have an eating disorder or not, life is really hard. Like, there are months where everything possible goes wrong, or everything happens all at once, and your brain gets so overwhelmed with things. And navigating that as well, like, I know sorry, I'm going on a tangent. Last episode, we talked about like healthy tips to get you feeling good and all of those things. If you add up all the things you want to do in your life to be the best version of you, like, remember, my light's gone off, sorry. Remembering to drink enough water, to eat right, to exercise, to go to work, to have enough sleep, to see your family, to see your friends, to all of these things that we try and do as humans, is so much. And there's always going to be points where it gets really hard and
Yeah.
have to sacrifice one of those things. And obviously,
Mhm.
if you are prone to eating disordered eating, food is going to be one of the top things that falls off because
Yeah.
you can't do all of those things.
No, you can't. And because I think that's important to note as well, that, and like taking the example of like my past year, I have had a very busy, hectic year, very stressful, sometimes very emotional.
Mhm.
And it is one of those things that when you are recovering from it, because when you are recovering new, obviously the way that you think is like ingrained in your mind and they're solid, and you're trying to create new habits, but those take so much time. And when you don't have time to actively think about the next route you're taking,
Yeah.
you go back to those old habits. So yeah, you will relapse. And I'm going to tell you that now, if you are trying to recover, there are times you will relapse. And I have done it many times. But
But
it's
like we
as long
said
as like,
last time, you are going to fail in your journey.
yeah,
Everybody does, but
yeah,
it's what you do the next day that
yeah.
separates you from
It's,
someone that just
yeah,
stops.
it's accepting it and taking a breath and then moving on from it and trying to let go of it. That
Mhm.
is the most important thing, which is hard, but yeah, it
So
will make
obviously you have been through all of that stuff and
Mhm.
you're now a coach as part of my team
Yes.
and you're working to help people get over it and go through those things and use your experience for it. But I know at the beginning, like one of the things you struggled with was imposter syndrome because
Hmm.
I know that you thought, well, I'm not recovered, so how can I help other people do it because
Yeah.
I still struggle. So why did you want to become a coach?
So I think it's also important to note there that I still sometimes feel like I have imposter
We all
syndrome.
have that. I have
Yeah.
that.
um, the reason why I wanted to help people, I think, is because I'm just a very empathetic person. I hate seeing people in pain or
You have the
struggling with
biggest
things.
heart.
Um, and I think, yeah, there's not none, but I think there's so much misinformation out there. And
Mm.
I think I have gone through so many struggles of trying to lose weight, and I have tried every single fad diet, everything you can think of under the sun to try and lose weight, and none of them work. And that is kind of what has enhanced probably my binge eating more as well. And I think if there was someone out there that could put the right information out there, which is also why we're doing this, because
Yeah.
we want to give you free information. We understand people don't always have the money to, do it. And yeah, if I'd had that information out there, I could have saved myself so much time, stress being a main thing, and emotion. And I think I would have learned to just enjoy my life rather than struggling about, how many calories have I got this day, and all that stuff. So yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to do it, is just help people to understand, but also just feel better in themselves as well. Because I think binge eating takes such a big thing out of you, like confidence wise,
Mhm.
and self-love as well. I think is a huge thing. Like I can remember hating myself
Yeah.
for it, and I just don't want anyone to have to go through that again, because it's such a horrible thing to do. And yeah, it's just trying to help people to not go through the same things I did.
Yeah, it is so hard. But that's why we're here to help people now. And that's what, like you said, why we're doing this, because as horrible as it is that you've been through all those things and we'll probably still go through things in the future because that's life. Like the thing you can take away from it is that you can use those experiences to help other people.
Exactly.
And like I always tell myself that regardless of what I've gone through, and I've gone through a lot of crappy things, which we can touch in another episode. But every time something happens to me, obviously I feel rubbish for a while and I go through whatever it is. But the one thing I do is then make sure that it's not something I hide in my brain and I talk to people about it because I know it can help somebody else.
Yeah.
And the more open I am with someone else, the more I know they might want to open up to me and talk to me about what they're going through. And like, this isn't me trying to sell our business and stuff, but like, that's why I hired you to work on my team, is because I know you've been through all those things. And I know that a lot of my clients go through awful things and that you can relate to them and you can understand what they've been through. And know how to help them or what doesn't help, or notice the cycles that happen.
Yeah, no, definitely. And thank you for, allowing me to be on the team. But yeah, I do just think it's just one of those weird things, and you don't realize you're in it until you are in it, and sometimes even then you don't realize it. And yeah, but yeah, if you are, or you even think you might be, please do reach out.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we don't want to make this all doom and gloom.
No.
Not every podcast will be like that, but
no, but I think it's important to touch some serious things as well, because
and that's what I was going to say, that this is a service to help you guys, and actually I think raising awareness of it as well is so important, because if you hide things, then there's no information out there, and it's not always sunshine and rainbows.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, you have to talk about the bad things you've been through. So if you go on Instagram, everyone looks like they're doing amazing. Everyone looks like they're not struggling with anything. Like, if you went on our Instagrams, we've got better at it lately, but like initially it looked like I never suffered with anything, you never struggled with anything, because you put highlights on there, you don't put the hard times. So there are going to be some episodes where we talk about harder subjects, but hopefully someone listening is going to think, yeah, I've gone through that, I get that, and it will help them.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is a podcast based on the fact that I did start very young in my eyes, and I am aware of that. But actually, even though I struggled for years, this is a recovery story. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. This isn't, everything you go through also makes you who you are as well. And you do change as the years go on, and I'm so much more resilient and empathetic, and I do honestly think, not to toot my own horn, I am so much of a better person because of it, but yeah,
this sorry, another side tangent, but we have got so bad, not just us, like in general, but we have got so bad at getting ashamed of talking about the good things that we can do, or the good things that we are. And it's okay to toot your own horn, like you have done those things, and you should be proud that you are doing that.
You know what? I am an effing amazing person.
Yes, you effing are.
End the podcast. Just leave it on that.
Mic drop. Goodbye.
Yes.
No, but it is true. This is why we do the positives as well, because by doing the positives, you realize those things, and that you are those people, and you're not just a number on the scales, and you are worthy of sitting in that rowing boat and rowing to your heart's content if you want to. You don't need to be X amount of size.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, I didn't say, I think I do not blame rowing for it. I loved the sport when I did it. Absolutely. It's just circumstances.
It is.
And, I do think as well, I mean, so I'm studying sports psychology at the moment, but it is a very well-known thing that when you are in team sports, you do get sucked down by other people, body image issues, and all that as well.
But we're going to touch that on another episode.
Yes, we are.
Yes. But yeah, thank you for talking about your journey.
That's all right.
I know it's hard sometimes to relive things and go back through them, but
it's all right. I don't mind sharing. I feel like we touched the surface anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we will wrap things up there.
Yes. Bit of a longer one today, I think.
No, but it's what we needed.
True. But
so thank you all again for listening, and we hope you enjoyed it. So if you did, please send us a message or comment below if you're watching on YouTube. I feel like one of those cool kids now that's like and subscribe below.
Yes. Follow us on Spotify.
All of the things.
Click the dingy bell, whatever it is.
Give us a thumbs up. No, but in all seriousness, thank you for listening. I like doing this with Abbie because she is my best friend, and I like being able to talk to her every single week and discuss these things. But it means even more to me knowing that there's people out there listening that we are helping. So thank you to you guys.
Thank you very much. And yes, as always, if you haven't listened to our previous ones, check them out as well. And there will be another one next week as well.
Yes, every Thursday.
Look forward to that.
We will catch you all later. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.